I'm 16 years old, and last weekend I helped turn my 72-year-old grandfather into the most stunning elderly woman you've ever seen. I'm talking full makeup, a floor-length burgundy sequined evening gown, a curly wig, and a transformation so convincing that when our neighbor walked in unannounced, she didn't even recognize him. What started as my 12-year-old sister's innocent idea became the most memorable day our family has ever had together. This is the story of how a dusty old makeup kit, a playful afternoon, and my grandfather's willingness to do anything for his grandchildren created a moment none of us will ever forget. My name is David, and this is the day we turned Grandpa into a beautiful old lady. Before we dive in, please take a moment to subscribe. And if these stories resonate with you and you'd like to support the channel, you'll find my Buy Me a Coffee link pinned in the comments section and also on the About page. It's a simple way to show appreciation and help keep the Gender Diary growing. No pressure. Your presence here already means so much. 4 months. That's how long it had been since Amanda and I had visited Grandma and Grandpa's house. Sure, Dad would drop by occasionally for quick visits related to work or family business, but to us, that didn't count. Those weren't real visits. Real visits meant spending the whole weekend there, meant having time to just be with them without rushing, meant getting spoiled in ways Mom and Dad would never allow at home. Our family has deep ancestral roots. Grandma and Grandpa's house isn't just a house. It's where generations of our family have gathered, where stories get passed down, where traditions live and breathe. And for Amanda and me, it's basically paradise. Grandpa has this way of saying yes to things our parents would immediately shut down. Want ice cream before dinner? Grandpa's your guy. Want to stay up past bedtime watching old movies? Grandpa doesn't see the problem. Want that toy Mom said was too expensive? Somehow Grandpa always finds a way. But beyond the treats and the spoiling, I love visiting for a completely different reason. Every time I'm there, Grandpa and I have this tradition. We sit together, usually in his favorite worn leather chair by the window, and he tells me stories. Not just any stories. Fairy tales from his childhood, adventures from his time in the Navy, wisdom about life that he's collected over 72 years. At 16, I'm supposed to be too cool for this kind of thing, but I'm not. Those moments with Grandpa, just him and me, are some of my favorite times in the world. So when Dad announced on Tuesday evening that we were finally visiting that weekend, Amanda literally squealed. She's 12 and has no shame about showing excitement. I played it cool, just nodded and said, "Sounds good," but inside I was counting down the hours just like she was. The car ride there felt longer than usual. Amanda talked nonstop about what she wanted to do, what she hoped Grandma would cook, whether Grandpa would take us to that ice cream shop he loves. I mostly looked out the window, but my mind was already at their house, already settling into that comfortable chair, already hearing Grandpa's voice beginning another story. When we finally pulled into their driveway, before Dad even turned off the engine, Amanda had her seatbelt off and was ready to launch herself out of the car. The front door opened and there they were. Grandma wiping her hands on her apron, Grandpa standing behind her with that huge smile he always has when we arrive. The hugs, the questions about school, Grandma's immediate offer of food, Grandpa's booming voice calling us his favorite grandchildren, it all felt like coming home in a way our actual home sometimes doesn't. Amanda disappeared almost immediately. That's her pattern. She treats their house like a treasure hunt, running from room to room, checking if anything's new, looking through Grandma's things with the innocent nosiness only a 12-year-old can get away with. Grandma doesn't mind. She actually finds it endearing, always saying Amanda reminds her of herself at that age. Meanwhile, I did what I always do. I found Grandpa, who was already settling into his chair, and I pulled up the ottoman across from him. The afternoon sunlight was coming through the window just right, that golden hour light that makes everything feel warm and safe. He asked about school, about my friends, about whether I was still playing basketball, and then, like clockwork, he transitioned into story mode. He was about 30 minutes into this incredible tale about his Navy days, something about a shore leave in the Philippines and a mix-up involving a local festival when the door burst open. Amanda stood there, breathing hard like she'd been running, her eyes absolutely gleaming with excitement. In her hands, she held something I'd never seen before. It was a makeup kit, but not like the modern ones Mom uses. This thing looked ancient. The compact was slightly tarnished, the colors in the eyeshadow palette were muted and old-fashioned, and there was this thin layer of dust on everything that suggested it hadn't been touched in years. Maybe decades. "Grandpa! Grandpa!" she practically screamed, running toward us with the kit held out in front of her like a trophy. She was bouncing on her toes, that kit clutched in her hands, and the look on her face was pure mischief mixed with excitement. "Let's try this on you," she said, her voice hitting that high pitch it gets when she's really excited about something. I looked at Grandpa, expecting him to laugh and brush it off. But instead, something unexpected happened. He looked at that old makeup kit, then at Amanda's hopeful face, and without even a second of hesitation, he smiled and said yes. That's when I realized our quiet afternoon of stories was about to take a very different turn. I have to admit, my first reaction was to tell Amanda this was a crazy idea. I mean, I'm 16. There's this instinct to maintain some level of cool, some sense of being above childish games. But then I looked at Grandpa, who was already standing up from his chair with this amused sparkle in his eyes, and I realized something. This man had spent decades being serious, being responsible, being the patriarch of our family. And here he was, completely willing to let his grandchildren paint his face with ancient makeup just to see us smile. Amanda was already pulling him toward his bedroom, chattering about how we'd need good lighting and space to work. I followed, partly because Amanda insisted I had to help, and partly because I was actually getting curious about how this would turn out. Grandpa's bedroom has this big mirror on the dresser and good natural light from the windows. Amanda immediately started organizing our station, arranging the makeup products on the dresser like she was a professional makeup artist preparing for a big show. She's 12 and has maybe experimented with Mom's makeup a handful of times, but she was acting like she'd done this 1,000 times before. "David, you're my assistant," she declared, which apparently meant I'd be handing her products and offering absolutely amateur opinions on color choices. Grandpa sat on the edge of his bed, looking up at us with this patient, amused expression. "Am I going to be beautiful?" he asked. And Amanda very seriously responded that she'd do her absolute best. What followed was probably one of the most chaotic, hilarious, and surprisingly tender experiences of my life. Amanda started with foundation, which apparently is what you put on first. I learned this that day. The bottle was old, the formula probably not what it used to be. But she dabbed it onto Grandpa's face with intense concentration, her tongue sticking out slightly the way it does when she's really focused on something. I handed her products as requested, reading faded labels, trying to figure out what things were. Some of the names on these vintage cosmetics didn't even make sense to me, but Amanda pushed forward with the confidence of someone who absolutely did not know what she was doing, but wasn't going to let that stop her. Grandpa kept up a running commentary, asking questions like, "How many colors are you putting on my eyes?" And "Is that supposed to tickle?" Whenever Amanda applied mascara. He never once complained, never suggested we stop, never showed anything but patience and amusement. The eyeshadow was this palette of blues and silvers that had probably been fashionable in the 1970s. Amanda applied it generously, maybe too generously, creating this dramatic look that was somewhere between evening glamour and theatrical costume. I tried to offer suggestions about blending, based on absolutely nothing but guesswork, which Amanda mostly ignored. Then came the lipstick, bright red, which seemed bold for a first attempt, but Amanda was committed. She applied it carefully, Grandpa's lips pressed together as instructed, and when she finished, we both stepped back to look at our work so far. It was definitely something. The application wasn't smooth or professional. There were patches where the foundation didn't quite blend. The eyeshadow was heavier on one eye than the other, and the lipstick had gone slightly outside the lines. But there was something about seeing Grandpa sitting there, patiently letting us practice on his face, that made it feel less like a mess and more like art. Imperfect art, sure, but art made with love. Amanda insisted on blush next, brushing it onto his cheeks with enthusiasm that resulted in 2 bright pink circles. I suggested maybe blending it more, and for once she listened, softening the color until it looked less like a doll and more like a person. The whole process took maybe 45 minutes. The entire time, we could hear Mom, Dad, and Grandma downstairs, their voices floating up occasionally but never intruding. They had no idea what was happening up here. This was our secret project, our surprise in the making. When we finally finished, mascara applied, eyebrows somehow addressed with an old pencil, even a touch of highlight on the cheekbones because Amanda had seen that in a video once, we both stood back and really looked at what we'd created. Grandpa still hadn't seen himself. We'd been careful to position him away from the mirror during the process. He looked at both of us expectantly. "Well?" he asked. "How do I look?" Amanda and I exchanged glances. The truth was, he looked hilarious. The makeup was amateur at best, the colors were dramatic, and not entirely well blended, and seeing these feminine cosmetics on my grandfather's familiar face was jarring and funny. But there was also something sweet about it, something that made me smile not in mockery but in genuine affection. "You look amazing, Grandpa," Amanda said with complete sincerity. Amanda grabbed his hand, practically vibrating with excitement. "Okay, now we need to show everyone," she announced. I helped Grandpa stand up, and he still hadn't seen his reflection. "How do I look?" he whispered to me as we headed toward the door. I grinned. "You'll find out when everyone else does." We started down the stairs, and I could hear Mom, Dad, and Grandma's voices in the living room, completely unaware of what was about to walk through that door. Amanda rushed ahead to get their attention. This was about to get very interesting. Amanda burst into the living room first, announcing like a circus ringmaster, Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for the most amazing makeover you've ever seen. I heard Mom laugh, probably thinking Amanda was just being dramatic about some drawing or craft project. Then Grandpa and I walked in. The room went completely silent for about 3 seconds. Dad was mid-sip of his coffee. Mom had been folding a blanket. Grandma was sitting in her chair with her knitting. All three of them just froze, processing what they were seeing. Then Dad snorted, trying to hold in a laugh. That broke the dam. Mom burst out laughing, her hand flying to her mouth. Dad's coffee nearly went everywhere as he doubled over. And Grandma's face went through this amazing journey of shock, confusion, and then pure delight. "Jim!" she exclaimed, using Grandpa's name. "What on earth?" Grandpa did a little turn, hamming it up, clearly enjoying the reaction. "The children wanted to practice their makeup skills," he said with mock dignity. "I'm simply being a supportive grandfather." Amanda was beaming, so proud of her work. I was grinning, too, watching our entire family dissolve into laughter. It wasn't mean laughter. It was the kind of laughter that only comes from something unexpected and harmless and genuinely funny happening with people you love. Dad managed to compose himself enough to say, in the cheekiest voice I've ever heard from him, "Dad, you look absolutely superb." The word superb sent everyone into fresh waves of laughter. Then Grandma stood up and walked over to Grandpa, examining his face with the critical eye of someone who actually knows about makeup. She tilted his chin, looked at the eyeshadow, studied the lipstick application. We all watched, waiting for her verdict. "Well," she said seriously, "the girls did their best. The colors are bold, the application is enthusiastic." She paused for dramatic effect. "But without the dress, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. The room went silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. Everyone had heard what she said. Without the dress, Dad spoke first. "Mom, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" Grandma turned to look at all of us, and there was this mischievous glint in her eye that reminded me exactly where Amanda gets her personality from. "If we're going to do this," she said, "we should do it right. Makeup without the proper outfit is like a story without an ending." Amanda started bouncing again. Yes, Grandpa needs a dress." She turned to him. "Please, Grandpa, please." Mom was shaking her head, but she was smiling. "This family is absolutely ridiculous," she said, but there was no real protest in her voice. And Grandpa, standing there in his regular clothes with a full face of amateur makeup, shrugged and said, "Well, if we're going to commit to the bit, we might as well go all the way." What happened next was something I'll never forget. Our entire family, all 6 of us, trooped upstairs to Grandma's bedroom. She has this massive closet full of dresses from different decades of her life. Some are everyday wear, but some are fancy, the kind she wore to weddings and formal events. Amanda and I started going through options, pulling out dresses and holding them up. Mom joined in, surprisingly invested in finding the right one. Dad stood back making commentary, suggesting increasingly ridiculous choices just to make everyone laugh. Then Grandma went to the back of her closet and pulled out something special. It was a floor-length evening gown in deep burgundy red, completely covered in sequins that caught the light and shimmered. It had long fitted sleeves and a wide square neckline, elegant and formal and absolutely stunning. "I wore this to your father's military retirement dinner," she said to Dad, smoothing the fabric. "It's been hanging here for 15 years. Might as well see some daylight." Everyone agreed immediately. This was the one. This was perfect. The sequins, the dramatic color, the floor-length elegance. It was exactly what we needed to complete the transformation. Grandpa took the dress and disappeared into the bathroom to change. While we waited, Grandma started pulling out accessories. She found a short, dark brown curly wig she'd bought years ago for some costume party and never worn. She found dangling earrings. She even pulled out red nail polish. "If we're doing this properly," she said, "we're doing it completely." Amanda immediately grabbed the nail polish, and when Grandpa emerged from the bathroom with the dress on but not yet zipped, she sat him down and started painting his nails with the focus of a surgeon performing a delicate operation. Mom helped adjust the dress, making sure it hung properly. Dad found shoes, Grandma's dress shoes with a low heel. I helped position the wig, trying to make it look natural, while Amanda finished the nails. The entire family was working together, each person contributing something to this absurd, wonderful project. There was no judgment, no embarrassment, just all of us collaborating to make this transformation as good as it could possibly be. Finally, we stepped back. Grandpa stood there in the full ensemble, burgundy sequined gown, curly wig, makeup that looked significantly better now that it was part of a complete look, dangling earrings catching the light, freshly painted red nails. And here's the thing, the laughter had stopped. We all went quiet because we realized something unexpected. Grandpa didn't just look funny anymore. He looked beautiful. Not in a mocking way, not in a way that was just about the costume. There was something in his posture, something in the way he carried himself in that dress that had genuine elegance to it. Dad was the first to speak. "Dad," he said quietly, "you actually look incredible." Grandma had tears in her eyes, though she was smiling. She walked up to Grandpa and took his hand. "You're so handsome every day," she whispered. "I forgot you could be beautiful too." It was this profound moment, touching something deeper than just the fun and games. Then, from downstairs, we heard it. The front door opening. A familiar voice calling out, "Mary! I brought those recipes you wanted." It was Mrs. Henderson from church. She always just let herself in. We all looked at each other in panic. Grandpa was still in full makeup and a burgundy sequined evening gown, and Mrs. Henderson was about to walk into the living room in approximately 5 seconds. There was no time to hide, no time for Grandpa to change. We heard Mrs. Henderson's footsteps moving through the house, heard her call out again. Before any of us could decide what to do, we were all rushing downstairs, following Grandpa, who had apparently decided that there was no point in running. Mrs. Henderson walked into the living room just as we all filed in behind Grandpa. She had a folder of recipes in her hand, her purse on her shoulder, and the cheerful smile she always has. Then she saw Grandpa. Her smile froze. Her eyes went wide. She looked at Grandpa in the burgundy gown, then at all of us, then back at Grandpa. The silence stretched out for what felt like an hour but was probably only 5 seconds. Then she burst out laughing. Not polite laughter, but genuine, delighted, from the belly laughter. "Jim," she exclaimed. "Is that you?" She walked closer, circling him, taking in the whole look. "You look fabulous." The relief in the room was immediate. Amanda started giggling. Dad let out a breath he'd been holding. Grandma invited Mrs. Henderson to sit down, and she did. Still chuckling, asking about how this had happened. We explained the whole thing: the makeup kit, the makeover, Grandma's challenge, the complete transformation. Mrs. Henderson listened, laughing and shaking her head. Then she pulled out her phone and asked if she could take a picture to show her husband. Grandpa, who by this point was fully committed to the experience, posed with her, both of them grinning. When she texted the photo to Mr. Henderson, we all watched her phone, waiting for his response. It came through within seconds. "Tell Jim he's wearing that dress better than you, Helen." Even Mrs. Henderson laughed at that, not offended, just amused by the whole situation. She ended up staying for dinner. Grandpa kept the outfit on through the entire meal. And here's what struck me. After the initial surprise wore off, it just became normal. We ate lasagna and garlic bread, talked about church and neighborhood news, and nobody treated Grandpa any differently. Despite the burgundy sequined gown and full makeup, it was still just Grandpa, just in different clothing. After dinner, as we cleared plates, Amanda asked the question I think we were all wondering. "Can we do this again sometime?" Grandpa smiled. "Anytime you want, sweetie. Anytime you want." Later that evening, as we prepared to drive home, Grandpa finally went upstairs to change. When he came back down in his normal clothes, face washed clean of makeup, something felt almost sad about it. Not because the day was over, but because we'd had this glimpse of something special and now it was returning to regular life. The goodbye hugs lasted longer than usual. Amanda whispered to Grandpa that this had been the best day ever. I didn't say anything that dramatic, but I squeezed his shoulder when we hugged, and I think he understood. On the drive home, our family couldn't stop talking about it. Mom and Dad in the front seats, occasionally laughing about different moments. Amanda scrolling through the photos on her phone, already planning which one to make her phone wallpaper. And me in the back, quiet but smiling, realizing I'd just experienced something I'd remember forever. That day taught me something important about love and family. Real love isn't just being there for the big moments. It's being willing to look ridiculous for no reason other than making someone smile. It's a grandfather letting his grandchildren paint his face, because their joy matters more than his dignity. It's a grandmother who keeps old dresses and pulls them out for unexpected moments. It's a family that can laugh together without laughing at each other. I'm 16, and I know I'll have a lot of experiences in my life, but I also know that decades from now, when I'm old myself, I'll still remember the day Amanda found that makeup kit, and we turned Grandpa into the most beautiful old lady any of us had ever seen. If this story made you smile, hit that like button and subscribe for more heartwarming family moments. Drop a comment and tell me about your most unexpected family memory. And remember, sometimes the best moments in life come from saying yes to something absolutely ridiculous. Thanks for watching. The end.
The Gender Diary exists to light that path with shared stories. Whether you found connection in this narrative, you're on your own journey of gender exploration, or you're here seeking understanding, Your subscription fuels our mission. Every subscriber empowers us to keep illuminating these authentic experiences for our community. Kindly drop a comment below. Your voice adds to the tapestry of experiences that makes this space meaningful. Until our next story unfolds.